You've just entered the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. If you've come for actual legal advice, you need to turn right around, honey. You need to get out of here, 'cause you ain't gonna get none of that. They quibble, and they squabble, and they bicker. But if you want to hear meaningless opinions, this is the right place. They got plenty of that. Stuff that makes no sense at all. They go off on tangents. It's crazy talk. If that's your thing, keep listening. They'll keep talking.
Oh no, no, it's another episode of the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. You've entered the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. Yay!
Welcome to another edition of the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker on this April 14th, 2021. This is the episode that will make Greg incredibly happy in his pants when we have the guys from Spoiler Country come on and talk about what they're all about, and then they'll also help us deal with our client for the day, and our client is this time the nerd hierarchy. So that'll happen later in the episode after we get to know these guys. We have Kenric and John Horsley, and tell us a little bit about Spoiler Country. Is it where you just ruin everybody's shows and books for them?
Oh man, if we were smart, that's what we would have done, but no. It started in 2017. The root started in 2015. Johnny is married to my niece, and so we would see each other at all the family events, and him and I would always end up bullshitting about games, movies, pop culture in general, and comic books, because we both grew up loving comic books.
Wait, he's married to your niece. How old are you?
I am,
because you don't look that much younger than John there, and
John,
unless your uncle is younger than you or something. There's something strange going on here with the story.
Are you your own grandpa?
Yeah, you figured it out. Damn it. I'm 46. I think John is 37.
I'm 39.
39. Ooh,
okay.
Yeah. And my niece, I was 12 when my niece was born.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. But we just started bullshitting all the time. And we went and saw Kevin Smith in Bellevue, Washington, perform, and he was awesome. And he just basically said, what are you guys waiting for? Get off your ass. He's saying this to the crowd. Get off your ass and do what you want to do if you want to create something. And we just looked at each other, said, well, fuck it, let's do it. Oh, can I swear on this?
Fuck yes. No. Fuck, you can't fucking swear.
Okay, I'll try to.
Yeah, watch your fucking mouth.
Yes.
Watch my fucking mouth. So
right. We don't appreciate fucking words like that.
Fast forward like 9 months later, we put out our first episode, and yeah, it just started off as us bullshitting about comics, and then it turned into we're getting guests, and then somewhere along the way, all of a sudden, all these people came to us. This is literally how it happened. People came to us and said, hey, we like the content. Can we help you guys put this out? And we're like, sure. And we started writing articles on spoilerverse.com, which is behind me here.
So did Spoilerverse get created at the same time as Spoiler Country? Or okay,
nope. Spoiler Country came first.
Okay.
We built a small audience. Then one of our fans actually came up with, coined the term Spoilerverse.
Okay.
We were like, that's it. And then all of a sudden we had a bunch of other podcasts come on board. And now we have 4 or 5 writers that are writing articles and blogs every day. We have how many podcasts we have on the network now, Johnny?
Like 10 or 11 or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah. And
so
then
you're like podcast moguls then.
Yeah. And then we had Jeff Haas. We call him the Get. He became our publicist and said, hey, I've done some work getting people in for interviews. And then once he came on, we kind of exploded with guests. And now it come like a monster of a guest almost every freaking day. And
I watched your Thomas Jane episode, and that was like a hell of a get. Totally.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And Jeff is in like Rhode Island. You guys are in Pacific Northwest, right?
Right.
All right. So you're just north of. Greg and I are in Oregon, so we're
nice.
Just down in the Portland area. So we'll be stalking you one of these days.
That's awesome.
Come up
I listened to your guys' Martin Scorsese episode, MCU Cinema, and I gotta say, on top of you guys being comic nerds like me, you guys know how to squabble. So I was like, oh, these guys will fit right in. That was some great bickering and squabbling. Very impressed with that episode.
So we're gonna have a satellite office, is what you're saying, Greg?
Yeah. We could definitely get on each other's nerves when it comes to things. If you listen to some of the older episode, I always give Johnny shit because he literally said, it's like it's one of the first 20 episodes. He literally says, I don't care if I'm right or wrong. I'm going to argue until you relent.
Well, which is the website where you can find, or the podcast platform where you can find like your early episodes? Because I was having difficulty finding it, and I was thinking that maybe I'm just stupid today. I couldn't track them down.
You should be able to find them all on app or iTunes, and
okay.
And I don't know if they're all on Spotify, because Spotify is always kind of weird. It's like we're there.
Spotify's been weird for a show.
Yeah, and then of course Podcatcher, Google's podcasting platform.
So
or
Spotify would be more like Spottyify.
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly. Or you can go to our website, and all of our stuff on our website.
Yeah, because I was looking on the website, and then I don't know, just because there was so many different things there, I'm easily baffled. So I think
let's ask you guys a question as experts. So this is something I don't have any comic geeks I can talk to about this, but it drives me crazy. The past 15 years, the MCU is the biggest thing in the world, in cinema.
Oh my God.
I said cinema.
Should I take a nap for this question, Greg?
But I don't know. You don't have to. But so I'm always curious that when I was a kid, the Incredible Hulk would have a big thing as seen on TV when the TV show. Like they were so proud to have some connection to Hollywood. Now they've got it. And they don't do shit with it. Like if you go to see the Avengers movie, you're a kid who's like, hey, I want to read more about this. Those guys don't exist in the MCU, though that iteration of them.
Right.
It's like they didn't make a line of comics like MCU 2099 type imprint. And it's nuts to me.
Like DC did for Batman back in '89 when you went and saw the Batman movie, you go out in the lobby and there was a movie adaptation of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Batman is pretty similar. Like Batman's such an iconic character. It's like, whatever you do with Batman, it's still going to be Batman. As long as he's a badass.
I don't understand why you don't have local comic book stores do pop-up stores during those, especially on those opening days when you have thousands of people at those theater and go, oh, you just watch Iron Man? Here's a bunch of cool stories about Iron Man that this whole movie was taken from.
They'd make so much money doing that.
Yeah, and they don't do it.
Well, it's because they run comic book stores. They don't know how to make money.
Exactly.
That's true. But the whole industry doesn't know how to make money. It seems like every year that I don't know how they survive.
That's what happens when you put artists in charge of an industry.
Yeah.
They're not artists. They're suits, a lot of them.
But the thing is, in the 90s, a comic book was $1.25, almost $2. Some of them were $2. Now they're $5-6 a piece.
Kind of like cigarette packs. So they went up with the price of cigarettes, Greg.
There was a sin tax on them. We don't want kids rotting their brains.
You got to pay more.
There should be a sin tax.
I'm feeling really old because I remember buying comic books when they were like 25 cents.
Me too. That's when I started. 20 cents even, I remember.
I started in like 1981. I think there were 25, 30 cents.
I think in 81 they were, hitting about 35 cents.
Yeah. No, they were like 50, 60, I think, pushing them.
Yeah, well, I don't know about 81. I don't know, when I stopped buying comic books sometime back in the 80s. So I think it's because they had hit like 50 cents or something. And
like, that's just
I was like, I'm kind of done.
Yeah.
I thought it was because you started getting laid.
That could have been part of it too.
Yeah, a little.
It's like a genetic thing, You start having sex, you lose interest in comic books.
Yeah, I never.
So if you want to keep reading comic books, boys and girls, never have sex.
Yeah, that's why I don't have sex. Because I love my comics.
Gotta set your
But the thing
man.
is, your comics, you can't actually get the pages unstuck.
Hey, can we do something we never do on our show? We're going to do the remote cam.
Oh, no.
Because I never get to show this off.
That's because no one wants to see it.
I want to see
No,
it.
these guys want to see this. So I don't do the long boxes.
Honestly, yeah. He's got a wall of comic books.
Nice.
So here goes. Dun, dun.
This is when it happens. You have absolutely no other life. You don't have a girlfriend. You don't have children. This is all you've got.
These are my children.
Is your mom up
This
there?
is what happens to your life.
Every comic book is like a child of mine. I love them all equally.
How do you keep them in line? Do you spank a lot of them?
If they're hot, if they have
hot. You have hot children that you spank, Greg? I don't really understand
if they have
comment.
Psylocke in them from the X-Men.
And again, those are the ones that you can't tear the pages apart. So anyway, so you guys got together back, you said about 6 years ago initially when you saw the Kevin Smith program, and then you said people started coming out of the woodwork. Where are these people coming from? Because I know Jeff is in Rhode Island, and what other? Because you have what about 5 or 6 different other podcasts associated in Spoilerverse, or
like 11 or 12 now.
Oh wow, okay,
yeah.
Just for Spoiler Country, we've got 5 people who do interviews and stuff. There's Kenric, myself. There's Jeff who gets interviews and does interviews. There's Casey who's in Alabama who does interviews, and then there's Melissa down in California.
Wow, and how do you make sure that they're all staying within your brand without ruining it for you?
We don't have to worry about it too much because everybody has their own unique style.
Yeah,
but it all kind of fits in the way we interview. Like we got. I'm not gonna lie, we got lucky in the fact that the people we brought in to do interviews with us kind of interview in a similar style, but also have their own style with it. Yeah. Like one of the things we try to do a lot is not ask questions that everybody else asks, right?
Good.
Nobody wants to come to an interview and be asked the same damn question 100 times.
Yeah.
So, but we didn't really have to, we just said when we talked to them, hey, we don't want to ask generic questions. And they kind of just took that and they all do their own different kinds of research. So what's kind of cool is if you talk with Casey or talk with Jeff, you're going to get one kind of an interview, right? If you talk with Jeff, you get a very analytical interview digging into like what you've worked on. Talk with Casey, you're probably going to get some dick jokes in there at some point, but it's going to go deep on like the process behind it. If you talk with Kenric, you're going to get a lot more personal about like behind like why you did things and who you are. So it's really cool. And Melissa digs kind of meld between all 3 of those she gets personal and she asks like process questions and you learn more about like what the story is. And it's
John, what's your favorite color, by the way?
My favorite color?
Yeah.
Be purple.
Why did you ask him? Were you just trying to ask questions that most people don't ask?
A generic question.
That's
good. I like it.
If you could be any kind of tree, Kenric, what kind of tree would you like to be?
He'd be a pussy willow.
So what? I hear you. I'd be a weeping willow.
Yes, you would. I was going to say that, but you took it from me.
Hey guys, so what if one of the podcasters breaks or ruins the continuity of the Spoilerverse? Don't you need a continuity cop?
What if they like brought like Donald Trump on and just started asking him questions about politics? Wouldn't that be the thing that would shift the?
It would shift the core of it. We do try to stay away from the politics and stuff because comic nerds, it's kind of funny. They're really passionate about their politics. And if you spend any time on Facebook or Twitter or any of the social medias, you will see a very polarizing effect of comic book nerds that are very right wing and comic book nerds that are very progressive left. You know, there's very few that walk that center line.
Interesting.
So we try to stay away from that and keep it about the content of comics and the content of whatever pop culture, because we try to have people from the movies, people from TV shows and writers and all that kind of stuff. So we're just trying to keep it more, so it doesn't matter who you are. You want to come in, you want to have a fun time and listen to some cool interviews. It's a good place to go, especially Spoiler Country.
You know what I heard is, are you guys fans of Brendan McCarthy? English artist, he used to do Freak Wave in the 80s and Rogan Gauche. He directed the Mad Max Fury Road movie, co-directed that with George Miller.
Oh,
but he's a great comic artist. I've always admired him. And my friend who got to interview him was like, he's actually this crazy right-wing conspiracy theorist. I was like, no, he's my hero.
You'll be shocked with the people that behind the scenes, the way their whole political viewpoint is.
Is there a style of comic book like guys on the right or guys on the left that particularly go for, or is there all over the map? They just happen to have those extreme political beliefs.
Will you guys explain ComicsGate to him?
Yeah. Well, just let them answer my question first, you bastard.
This wouldn't answer it. I was trying to tell him.
What were you trying to tell them while you're stomping over my question?
John, you want to take this? You want me to take it?
ComicsGate. I'll let you take it and I'll chime in.
See, you ruined it, Greg. You got him into this ComicsGate thing, which wasn't my question.
This is going to answer your question.
That wasn't my question, though.
It was about the politics in what the comics are like.
I'll put it in the context of this. Right-wing conservative people tend to side on the way of ComicsGate people. And progressive.
See, I don't know what ComicsGate is, so now it's like that has to be cleared up.
Yeah,
because Greg ruined my question.
Yeah, they never heard it. We all heard your question.
You heard that? You know the concept of gating, right? Where you
in terms of like Watergate.
No, I mean I think our general audience would be too young for Watergate, I think. But gating is like, you're a Star Wars fan. I'm I'm a supposed Star Wars fan. And you say, oh, you don't even know who this character is. You can't be a Star Wars fan because you don't know everything there is to know about Star Wars fan. So you bash that person to make them feel bad or whatever because they're not a true Star Wars. That's gating. Okay. So
that's just being a dick in our terminology.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the same, it's the same
Okay.
thing.
It's the same thing. So ComicsGate is a group of people that got together and didn't like the changes that were going through the medium when it came to specific characters. And there's been a lot of race flipping, a lot of gender
They got
flipping.
mad that women were getting power and that non-white dudes were getting power in comics. That's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
they're pissed about.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
you can boil it
Like
down to
Black
whatever the fuck
Lightning
they
was
want
getting
to,
his
but
day in the sun or something.
yeah, they were
Kinda,
literally
yeah,
mad.
yeah.
Okay.
The only things they were mad about was when a non-white dude was like the main character, or the white dude got like less play than a non-white person. That's what
Well, there's like a whole thing where they had a Thor storyline where Jane Foster is Thor's girlfriend predominantly throughout the history of Thor comic books. And there's a 2-year period where she becomes Thor. They flipped out about it. They couldn't handle that a woman was being Thor. And that's really what it comes down to. And the thing that's funny is that, you know, shit changes all the time. Comic books, people die and they come back because it's the fucking comics.
Right. They always come back.
It's not a big deal. Everything's circular. You know what I mean? They freak out because they change a race of a comic book character. Who fucking cares at the end of the day? But they did. Those people tend to really be more conservative, more right. Not 100% of the time, I'm sure, but
because they don't like change.
They don't like change. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense to me.
Saying, hey, don't be transphobic, don't be homophobic.
Also, don't understand comics, because if you've ever read a fucking comic book, you know that comic books push liberal, not necessarily liberal, they push like progressiveness, right?
Yeah.
Comics have been political since the 30s.
Yeah.
Like,
If
no denying that. But
Stan's letters in the beginning of all those books in the 60s and 70s was all about social and economic issues of the day.
Yeah.
And talking about being equitable, being profitable, and being fair to all races and to anybody. And so it's funny that it's like they missed that part.
But Stanley just said, don't be fair to your artists and pay them well, give them credit.
Yeah.
Well, Stanley
with all their ideas, put your name on it. It's all Stan Lee, and you did nothing. And then, but be nice to people.
Right.
Well, he at least got to coin
get so much
excelsior as a term for years and years.
Yeah.
Which, whatever that means.
Yeah.
You ever say that, Matt, when you're happy?
Excelsior? It's always when I ejaculate, Greg.
That's what you're the
As it should be.
Right. That's and I get a no prize every time as well.
So you've been faking with me all this time because you've never said Excelsior.
I think you've just learned something today, haven't we?
Damn it.
That's why he wears a condom.
Well, unfortunately, Kenric is going to have to leave early, so we're going to have to get into our client right away. But we're basically right in the middle of the client anyway. So the client today is the nerd hierarchy, which is something that Greg had brought up and that he wanted to delve into. So, Greg, why don't you tell us what you feel the nerd hierarchy is, and we'll then get to our disagreements with that.
Well, long ago when I was in college, which is when you guys were born, maybe, and me and my friends were sitting around talking, and we were thinking about how there's different kinds of nerds, like stamp collectors are nerds. They're really obsessive about it, coin collectors. And then all of the different kinds of nerdism, there's a hierarchy though, and I basically, it came down to who gets laid more. So I was a comic collector my whole life. I knew being a comic fan wasn't going to help with the chicks, with the ladies, as Matt likes to say. And but then like model train collectors, those guys are usually like rich guys with a nice house, and they've got their basement set up, they've got wife and kids, so they're at the top, even though that's very obsessively nerdy. And then we're thinking of all the different kinds, like Star Trek fans are above comic fans because some women hang out with Star Trek fans, like that's kind of more accepted.
Well, if they're also Star Trek fans.
No, not even so. Like, I know girls who don't like Star Trek, but it's not as geeky watching Star Trek on TV as guys who collect comics and go to the comic store and bag them and put them in their boxes.
I think it depends on how into Star Trek you are.
That's the qualifiers.
True.
How deep into it are you? Are you going to Trekkie shows or not? Are you a Trekkie, or are you just watching the show like casually? It's a huge.
Are you reading the books and making
Trekker.
a timeline based upon everything in the books? Well, I came across something called the geek hierarchy, Greg, and We'll start off with the nerd, and just for the sake of all the etymology fans out there, the word nerd started back in like the 1950s, and it was a play on the word nert, which was then a play on the word nut, because they used to call people nuts. It became nerts and then nerds. So that's where that kind of came from, and it gained more familiarity back in the 70s when it started being used with regularity on the show Happy Days. So there you go. There's my geek moment. So nerd here in the geek hierarchy is someone overly intellectual who is passionate about movies, comics, music, and collecting cool stuff, and also attracted to fictional characters. A geek is similar to a nerd, but more knowledgeable and more attracted to machines, technology, and science. A dork is someone who has odd interests and is often silly at times, and someone who can be himself and not care what anyone thinks. And then they have the term gamer in here with their own issue of someone addicted to one or many kinds of games, especially FPS, MOBA, and RPG games. I know what RPG is. I don't know what the other ones are. And who is always in need to discover and play new games. Now, and again, etymology's sake, geek comes from the old carnival people who used to bite the heads off chickens, and dorks was a term for your penis. So that's
my penis?
A little bit specifically Greg's penis.
Greg's penis. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, John, for just aligning yourself with our way of thinking. So
that's how you introduce himself to ladies. Have you met the dork?
I am the original dork. This is it.
Would you like to geek out on my dork?
So there's a hierarchy there.
It's that kind of show.
Hey, Matt, speaking of these 4 categories, though, I would say
those, Greg, tell me.
Those gamers, they're at the bottom of that hierarchy, because I know video game guys who turn down like booty calls to play video games with their friends. When I was reading comics, if some girl called me, I'd put down the fucking comic and go over.
That's because the gamers have like virtual reality games where they can actually get off playing those games.
They can have sex.
Exactly. They can have
they
don't have to have any type of physical contact because they have their fleshlight to take care of them.
I don't think when they're playing Call of Duty that comes into play.
It depends.
If I was a teenager reading a comic book and I got a call for a booty call, I'd leave that room so fast you'd see like that cloud of wind and the comic book fluttering around as I'm gone.
If she asked me to burn that comic, that was a condition, I'd do it. Even if it was like a expensive mint copy of Spider-Man.
Depends on the comic. Depends on the comic.
You're right.
Yeah. Would you really burn your first edition of Dazzler?
How about your Hulk 187? Would you burn that one?
Hulk 187?
Yeah. But then if the booty
is that the one where he got the purple pants? What is Hulk 187?
That's the first appearance
Wolverine.
of Wolverine.
I think you mean 181.
181. That's what I meant.
First appearance of who?
180, because
Wolverine.
The first cover.
Wolverine.
Yeah, when he was a villain. He was a bad guy from Canada.
Because that's where all the bad guys come from.
Yeah.
They all come from
No,
Canada.
he stood out because everyone in Canada is nice and polite. So he was a weirdo up there.
Yes, everyone in Canada is nice and polite.
No
True.
exceptions.
Because Greg has met every human in Canada, and he's done this as a study.
I was the prime minister for a while. Don't you remember in the mid-'80s?
Were you?
Yeah.
What was some of the legislation you enacted in Canada to?
Hailing
I instituted the Maple Syrup Embargo to America. It was a war. It was a price war.
That's hilarious.
I think you're just being a sap right now. Anyway. Sorry, it happens. I can't help myself. Anyway.
Oh my God.
So within the nerd hierarchy, in terms of, I think your idea about train sets. I don't know if you know this, but apparently Rod Stewart is a huge train aficionado as well. And, given the nature of that with your concept, Greg, maybe you're correct that they're the upper echelon of nerds. Although you had said that you thought in a previous conversation that you thought it was more eccentricity. But I think you're only eccentric if you have money. If you don't have money, you're just crazy.
But it's beyond decent. It's definitely nerdy. Like they really get into it. They buy the magazines. They look for a certain model train that they've been looking for years, just like comic collectors do,
Yeah.
That's funny.
Do you guys have any deep suspicions about people who don't collect things?
What do they do with their life? What are you doing?
I envy them.
I envy
I'm like,
them.
I envy
They're
them.
healthy.
I envy their ability to have money.
Who didn't have
So each of you guys, is there a particular thing that you collect that the other doesn't collect? Like the thing that sparks your just like back when I was doing comic books, I was just picking up like the original New Teen Titans comic books
That's a
back
great
in
book.
the day,
Yeah,
which
that's
I got, I think like the first 50 issues, and then I gave them all to my brother.
So the slow burn in that, the New Teen Titans. It's one of the most famous storylines of all time. And it has the very slow burn
The Judas contract.
The Judas contract, yeah.
Exactly.
And it goes from it. We had Marv Wolfman on, and he told us they planned that out from episode 1,
Really?
all the way to what is it, issue 50,
So,
when they
yeah,
finally reveal it.
It's a couple years in, yeah.
Yeah,
We're
Yeah.
talking about like when Trigon comes in or something, or what are
No.
we talking about?
Tara was this like young superhero they take on to join the Teen Titans, like in issue number 20 something. It turns out she's like a mole for Deathstroke the Terminator. For you don't know forever.
yeah.
You just think she's
People
a cute little
pissed.
superhero.
People were pissed because they had been following this character. They loved this character, and then she ripped the heart out of everybody, which was awesome.
It's kind of what you want to have happen. That's how it keeps things fresh.
It's great storytelling, man.
Destroying your
yeah.
fan base is always the best thing to do.
But it's
It made me more intrigued by the comic. That
Yeah.
made me, wow, this comic's amazing.
That was a great book. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I didn't mean to get into that, but that was one thing that I was following. So is there a particular title that you guys follow that you're fully nerdy about that the other guy is not as nerdy about?
This guy right here
Greg,
is the number one.
because you're
biggest-
pointing at
our
Greg in
biggest
my
fight we ever
screen.
had. Oh, I don't know where is he here? Is he there?
I would say just point in all directions and you'll find him.
Everywhere. I'm
Yeah.
all around. I am everywhere.
That guy right there.
John is all and all
The
is
biggest
That's
John.
like no point at all.
The biggest fight we ever had is I called Superman a bully.
Oh,
You would have thought that he goes, you have to turn the podcast off right now. And I wish we wouldn't have, because we had like a 20-minute argument over fucking Superman. And
Did you have to take it outside?
yeah, he got really mad because I said, it's a fucking comic. He's like, well, why the fuck are we even doing this podcast for if Superman's just a fucking comic?
Because to put that into perspective, like whenever we get into an argument and Kenric was either done or had no place to go, his response was, well, it's just a fucking comic.
Yeah.
Like his give up word to like, well, it's just a fucking comic, you nerd. And it's like, well, fuck you. Your argument about this too, you asshole. You started the argument, not me.
so is Superman a bully?
No. Kenric's a fucking bully.
Kenric, what's your answer now? Did John sway you after your debate?
Well, to be fair, I haven't read a lot of I'm not a big Boy
To
Scout.
be fair, he was talking out of his fucking ass.
I'm not a big Boy Scout character person, right? And he had me read this novel, graphic novel called Kingdom Come, and it's a good one. You should if you get a chance to read it and you haven't read it, it's a good book for people who don't really know about comic books or don't like comic books to read and go, wow, that's a really well crafted story. That one and Kraven's Last Hunt.
Yep.
2 amazing crafted stories. And through the book, as people are in the presence of Superman, they're a completely different character in a lot of ways. They're scared to voice their own opinions in fear of what Superman might do. Look at him, see how he's moving his face around because he doesn't like what I'm saying. But it's true. And if you read the book, you'll like it. And my context of Superman in the comic books, I haven't read a lot. I read that. And in that story, I felt like he was maybe not being a bully to your face, but being a bully just for the fact that people were scared to say what they really wanted to say. And
Well, as I push my glasses up my face like a nerd, I have to say Kingdom Come was an Elseworlds graphic novel that took place outside the DCU.
that's right.
And it was him in the future, a possible
Right.
future. Superman's not like that normally.
That's right.
He's not
That's right.
as imposing.
But as we moved along throughout the years, I have read more, and I am a bigger fan than I was before. I'm not John's level of a fan. I'll never be that because he's got connections with it with his dad and all this other stuff that far outweighs what Superman actually means to the normal person. But he definitely is more of a, like, he collects Superman. He's got some incredible books.
Well, if you
All
can't
the
tell,
Superman
like that, right? Where's that? Right somewhere over there. The book back there on the wall. That's an
So he's actually read the comic
Pull it
book
off
that
the wall,
describes like the smell of Superman's balls or something.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
They're not salty. It's sweet because he comes from Krypton, and the water there was no.
And the farts smell like roses on Krypton.
Farts smell like roses. So, see, this guy
What is that?
Is
That's
that
your
the
1942 Superman novel by George Lothar with art by Jerry Siegel.
and how much is that one worth?
Like $2,000.
Nice.
Whoa.
It has
It's
the
even
dust
got
jacket. And I don't know if you can't really see them. Yeah. Those red things right there, that's 5 more copies.
Of the same one?
Yeah.
So you've got like $10,000 for the Superman novels there.
Well, those ones aren't worth as much because there's no dust jacket. I only have those 5 copies because I have 5 kids and I want to give each one of them their own book of that book.
his dad.
You've indoctrinated all of your children into the Superman
I very much
nerdology.
have.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So we know where you sit. So Kenric,
Mhm.
what's your issue?
Mine is probably this girl right here. Oh, no, there we go.
I have no idea who that is.
Is that from Wildcats?
No, that is
That's a Barbie figure, I think.
it
I
is.
thought it was
I'm
Zealot.
obsessed
It
with
is.
Barbie.
But that's a new iteration of this girl that I don't actually like. I commissioned from Andy Park, who does all of the MCU costumes. Like he designs all the he draws all the designs and then they make what he draws, right? For the MCU stuff. And that is Magic from the New Mutants. And I wanted the one from 1987 where she's like this demonic looking thing and kind of badass. And he gave me the one that they did just a few years ago, which
I remember buying like the first 10 issues of the New Mutants too, and then I just stopped. I don't know. There was
So-
somewhere back, I think it was in college, I just basically stopped buying comic books.
Yeah.
So Andy Parks is the guy who makes all the MCU costumes look way more boring than they do in the comics. Like
Yeah,
Iron
he's the one
Fist.
that
He's the
design them.
concept. He's the concept artist for the
Yeah,
MCU.
concept artists. They'll change as they go, but yeah, he's the concept.
So
I'm
you've
sorry,
seen
I'm
the New
just bitter
Mutants.
about
Have you
Iron
seen the
Fist.
New Mutants movie?
I did.
Was
I
it
liked
any
it.
good?
Yeah, it
I
was
haven't
all
seen
right.
it yet.
Okay.
It's okay. I mean, it's not like amazing, and I think like it could have been amazing, and then they just kind of gave up because, well, stuff was obviously happening in the background, so they didn't really care about it as much.
Ah,
I wouldn't mind seeing Disney do something, because there's a lot of cool characters from there,
yeah.
and they had a great.
John, could I ask John as a Superman expert? I just finally saw, I couldn't finish it. I didn't like it. So I disliked it so much. It was Man of Steel.
Ugh.
And not only, it was kind of an okay movie as far as a movie going experience, but it really seemed to fuck with the Superman mythos to me, where I was like, no, Superman would never do that. Like,
You
let
just
his
nailed it.
dad die. Like, let Kevin Costner die just because his dad said, Superman.
Yeah,
just
this is
can't
a
let someone
show
die."
where I really wish Brendan was on here to shut you the fuck up about this.
Well, let's just.
I mean, we're like digging in here, Greg. This is
Well,
like
we're
you're
nerds. This is
making
what
my
we do.
teeth. You're making my teeth rattle now. I
Well,
mean,
we're talking about the Teen Titans and New Mutants.
Let's be clear on this though. The Man of Steel. It's an interesting movie to watch. It's not terrible, but however, when it comes to Superman,
Again.
Superman would never let his dad die. 2, Jonathan Kent would never tell him to let him die like that in that way. Jonathan Kent would never tell him to let the kids die on the bus, ever. Superman would never have taken, or Clark Kent would never have taken that guy's truck and wrapped it on a telephone pole. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many misses in that fucking movie. It's unreal. Like, it's a fun movie. It's a watching that, destruction, Superman hit things and all this powerful stuff, but like everything that makes Superman isn't there. Now we have a guy on our network named Robert who hosts a show called Bridging the Geekdoms, who is like the biggest Snyder fan in the fucking world. And him and I get in debates all the time about Henry Cavill Superman. I think Henry Cavill's a really good Superman. I don't think he's been given a chance to be a good Superman yet.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah.
I didn't like Lois Lane. I think
I
she
don't
was a
like
terrible
Lois
Lois
Lane. I don't
Lane.
like Amy Adams Lois Lane. I think she wasn't one. Well, I think she was underused. And in BVS, when they literally shot Jimmy Olsen in the head for 2 seconds, that pissed me off. Like,
PVS, is that like a pharmacy?
it is, yeah. Let me pick up your it's a
the
Batman,
DCU.
Batman v Superman.
Oh, for crying out loud. Okay, so we're going into acronyms, Greg. See what you've done? You see what you've done? Forced
Okay, I
him
wanna
to
ask-
speak in acronyms because of your insanity.
Okay, can I bring back the hierarchy for 1 second? So when we were hanging
Yes.
out in college,
You are
the one
in the middle of the hierarchy right now.
No, I'm at the bottom. I'm close to the bottom. But we figured out that the very lowest of all of them were the guys with metal detectors on the beach, because those guys are like half homeless usually. But that's definitely a nerdy thing. They're passionate about looking for things, finding a weird little piece of metal, they sort them
You
out.
guys came up with this list in 1922. When did this happen?
There's still those guys. I mean, in the 80s, I'd see them on the beach. I haven't been on the beach in a while. I'm not a beach kid anymore.
Yeah.
But they were still out there. There's always some old guy sometimes they look like their clothes are all shabby. They're just like with their metal detector.
They're looking for that. They're looking for that diamond ring, man. It's going to happen. They
Looking
think
for
that,
bottle
they
cap
are.
collector's items is what they're
yeah,
looking for.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So this lost bottle caps of their youth that they can't get anywhere else except on a beach
They want
or
it bad.
some very metallic crab.
How are we ranking these nerds or geeks? Like by a level of how they get laid or like coolness? Like what's the ranking?
Maybe
here?
their social status, like how respected they are in society.
I feel like
when I was a kid, I had to hide the fact that I read comics. Most kids would pick on me or beat me up.
Oh, that
That's
was
It was really shit or bad.
changed.
yeah, that's changed now.
Being a
Now-
geek is not bad anymore. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was in I went to high school in the '90s, and like, I didn't tell anybody I was in the comics in the '90s, but I was in band. I was in a band, so I played rock music, but I didn't tell anybody I liked comic books on the side because everybody talked shit about them. But now, like my son, my teenage son, he's in a fucking graphic novel class in high school talking about Alan Moore and Joe.
I hear about that. That's crazy. Kids get to read The Watchmen in high school for curriculum.
You're the
I think a lot of it has to do with confidence levels too, because back in the day, I never hid the fact that I read comic books or anything like that, but I was involved in so many things, and my ego's already has been huge for decades, so that's probably a large part of it as well. Is that I don't have the issues that you guys perhaps went through, because I did sports, but I also did comic books.
sports.
But I was also in drama and the AV club, but I was also like varsity for that, and I was in like many other things.
I was a
AV club
semi-pro
pretty
bowler.
It could be that I was also just delusional and didn't know how many people were talking about me. At the
AV
same
club
time,
guys
though,
are
it's like I
different
played
art.
Dungeons and Dragons, but I was also getting the guys who played D&D with me laid. So it was like
That's why I never played Magic.
I
Because
played Magic.
yeah, Magic the Gathering came after me. I was just like, why are people playing cards now? That sounds boring.
I think it was
to
like
me.
92, 93. So I was like
94.
19 when it came out.
I
And
was like the right age when that came out.
yeah, see, for me, my neighbor was playing it. He said, "Come over and play." And I was like, "All right, I'll check it out." I played one night, and I was like, "No, I like getting laid too much. I don't want to play it anymore."
And the thing about Dungeons and Dragons is because you could get women who are interested, because it's role playing, right? A lot of women are into role playing just in general. It's just
Not that kind.
You exchange their nurse's costume for an orc costume. That's all.
Yeah.
The French maid outfit you exchange with like a bow and arrow and some assless chaps, Greg. That's how you can.
I'd love to see Matt on a Tinder date. I'm into
Lance
role playing,
Fair.
so he shows up as a wizard. He's like, would you dress up as an elf, a lawfully neutral elf?
What about the LARPers? You know what LARPing is?
Oh,
yeah.
they're
I'm
definitely
familiar with the term. I can't remember what it stands like. Long action,
live
right?
action.
Live action role play.
Ponies or something.
I mean,
right.
you can't get much more geeky than that, or nerd than that.
Yeah, that was kind of like an
What level
extension of like the Society for Creative Anachronism or something, right? It's
Right.
like LARPing
Yeah.
kind of came out of that.
And
It's
if our
crazy,
level is who
dude.
gets laid the most, the LARPers are at the top because they're fucking
You
each
think?
other all the time.
They're just having orgies
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
night.
There's a lot of women.
They calm down during
So LARPing would
Right,
be
and before it was called LARPing, that was when D&D was kind of in its heyday, back in like the late 70s, early 80s, when people were like reenacting things in live formats to play Dungeons and Dragons, and that's when cancel culture started, when all the right-wing types started going after people for the fact that they were being possessed by demons by playing Dungeons and Dragons,
Oh yeah.
especially in a bigger format. And now it's like they look back on that and they're like, well, I guess it wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
Compared to meth
Compared to
Compared to
meth,
nothing's
and
that bad.
school shootings.
it's all about that meth role playing now that people are doing.
Yeah.
It's like you can actually get kids now and you create your own role play of your own meth lab.
Right.
You get
That's a fun
together.
one. I thought
It's
of
like, here,
another
kids,
one
run
high
from
up.
the FBI now.
Roll for initiative. Oh, your lab blew up.
I thought of another one that's pretty high up in the hierarchy is Civil War reenactors, which I guess fits into LARPing.
Yeah.
It
It seems
does.
like those guys all have families, they have kids. They're not like
You know
these
what's funny?
weird
I bet
nerds.
you Civil War reenactors make fun of LARPers doing D&D.
Well,
They should fight on a battlefield.
real freaking battle. What the
well, it's like the guys play
Actually,
baseball.
I think that's an excellent idea, and you should have them in their own costumes going against each other. So you
Yeah.
have like the fantasy LARPers with the Civil War reenact LARPers, and have them fighting each other in their own characters. And
I'd
then
pay to
that's
see
how you
that.
could make them all actually get along finally. They would all get
The
along
Civil War
together.
shoot them, and they were like, "I just shot you."
But I had a magic spell that blocked your bullet. I'm a wizard.
Shield of
It didn't count.
deflection.
Deflection spell, yes.
This conversation went into areas I never thought would be possible.
Welcome to the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker.
Where'd you guys come up with that name?
Well, you can't figure that out. It's, you know, honestly, it comes from Monty Python credits is really kind of where the general concept comes from of the law offices of blah, blah, blah. You know, people talk about Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. Well, we had a friend who would say that Greg and I bickered a lot, and I was just thinking of some name because we had so many different names like Politically Stupid or, you know, Old White Men Giving Their Opinions as another potential title. And then the thought came Law Offices of Bicker. Then I'm like, well, it needs more than that. We need some alliteration. So Quibble and Squabble kind of came off the tongue a little bit. And then with the Bicker was added as well as a, you know, a 3-partner thing. Unfortunately, like we have one of our hosts who isn't on with us today, but he helps add more of the squabble element.
He's a squabbler.
Mainly me between he and I, not so much with other people who are guests. They accuse me of being. I was recently titled Captain Quibble a couple of episodes ago. So
that's your superhero identity.
Apparently so. And Greg, you know, Greg is just the heart of the show.
Quibble, squabble, and drunk. That's what it should have been called.
Possibly.
I love it.
Well, I know Kenric's going to have to go, but John, are you able to stick around for a little bit longer to delve into these things a little more? Because I know Greg is basically, and don't take this the wrong way, having a heavy erection with you guys. So I know he has many questions that he wants to ask.
Yeah,
that's a compliment. I haven't had an erection in years, Matt. Thank you.
Yeah, we might not be able to see his camera at a certain point, but if you're willing to stick around, that'd be great.
Why does your shirt look like a tent?
He's got a friend named Ahab, the tent maker.
Tent pitcher. That's my job.
Anyway, well, tell us a little bit more about Spoiler Country. So we went off kind of on, we went on into our client, but so Spoiler Country, where did that name come from if you're not actually spoiling anything?
Well, I'll take that one, Kenric.
Yeah.
So we were trying to figure out a name because we wanted something that was catchy and a name that kind of described what we're doing. And we didn't want to have like comic in the name or like pop culture and things like that. And I was talking to a guy at my day job about like nerdy stuff. And I can't remember what he said a name was. It was spoiler something, but Kenric and I decided we wanted to have a name that allowed us to talk about spoilers just in the name. So we don't always have to go, oh, by the way, spoilers coming up, because we do, you know, we used to do a lot of movie reviews and comic reviews. And then I think it came from like our first logo I ever made was Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. You know, oh my, it's Bat Country, but I put Spoiler Country on it with them in the car. And then it's kind of evolved from there. And we just kept Spoiler Country. I don't know if we ever picked it to be a permanent name forever, but we picked it one day. And then we did our first episode, which is called Going in Dry, because we just pushed record one night and started talking. And then it was meant to be just a test record, but then we released it that night. Like, whatever, fuck it, Going in Dry. Here you go. Here's the first episode. And then it just stuck ever since then.
I actually thought your podcast was dedicated to the 80s Batman characters, the spoiler. I thought your whole show was about her.
Oh, yeah, you sure it wasn't about the thing on the back of a car?
Yeah, just spoiler.
Could have been. That would be a good podcast.
Well, I have a question about your slogan, though. So the slogan is, in the oceans of podcasts, you are the Cthulhu of that. And so, you know, we're more like the pineapple in the oceans of podcasts. But how do you become one of the elder gods whenever it comes to podcasts? Is it because you've been around a while, or because you have suckers on your hands, or what exactly?
You have giant dick fingers.
Dork fingers.
Yeah.
Let's keep it clean.
Sorry.
Yes, this has been a very clean episode.
Yeah. Honestly, we just wanted a cool tagline.
Yeah.
And we sat down one night, and I'm a big H.P. Lovecraft fan. And I love that whole mythos. And I was like, we got to come up with something. And I don't even know who thought of it first. It really was the two of us bouncing things off of each other. And it was something really long at one time. And we just cut it down to that. And then, we're going
to have to figure out a slogan of some kind. Maybe ours will be, we're not spoiler country.
Yeah.
That'll be our.
Have you guys been to Portland? Have you guys ever visited?
I was in Portland 3 days ago.
It's so
Did you go
far
to
away from them,
Lovecraft?
Greg.
Did you go to the Lovecraft?
No, I just drove through. I was
You
in
said
California.
go to the Lovecraft. You mean the Lovecraft Festival, Greg? You need
No,
to add
do you
a-
guys know? Do you guys know there's a bar? There's a bar in Portland called Lovecraft that's all themed about horror and H.P. Lovecraft. It's pretty cool. You got to go.
Oh,
They serve absinthe. They serve real absinthe there,
Oh, nice.
Green
and they
Fair.
have techno dance at night, and smoke and everything. It's really cool.
Smoke. It has smoke.
Smoke.
Is
Smoke
that something
machines.
that's appealing for people?
Well,
Greg?
it's kind of spooky. You feel like you're in an old Dracula movie. There's mist. I guess it's mist.
The things you latch onto for descriptiveness. It's smoke.
It's got smoke.
But there is something called the Lovecraft Festival that happens every year where they do like a highlight of various different Lovecraft type movies, and they have shorts and things like that. It's relatively, I guess, a relatively big deal for people who are into that level of nerddom.
Yeah.
Where they get into Lovecraft. So, are there a lot of like Lovecraft comic books that you've picked up over the years, or?
Yeah, from here and there, but really, the Lovecraft mythos has kind of woven its way in through almost all forms of medium now. So, because it's all in the open domain, writers just take from it all the time. So it's there's nothing that I'm going to go, you should just get this because it's going to be all Lovecraft. You know what I mean? You just have to, you just kind of know it when you see it. You're like, oh, that's obviously, they start talking about Hellboy. Hellboy is a perfect example.
Yep.
Steeped in the Lovecraft mythos.
In the 70s, Doctor Strange even did it. Marvel Comics.
Yeah,
Doctor Strange met these elder gods, who's obviously H.P. Lovecraft. But I got to ask you, have you read Providence? It's like the Citizen Kane of Lovecraft comics. Alan Moore's last big
No, I haven't
project.
read it yet. Is it good?
You got to read it.
I'll check it out.
I'm not even a Lovecraft guy, and I loved it, but you would probably get a lot of stuff that I didn't get.
Yeah, I'll check it out. But that's where the tagline came from to round it out. It's kind of funny because when we started, it was all about comic books. Then we got into literature and had writers on, like for novels and stuff. And now with bringing Jeff on, it's a fucking gambit. It's a gamut. We don't know what we're going to get half the time now.
Well, I saw you had Larry Hankin on. We interviewed him back in January.
Cool. Yeah.
And Larry's a lot of fun. And I was watching that last night too. So you guys, I appreciate how respectful you guys are of your guests, unlike us, where we just interrupted the fuck out of Larry Hankin whenever he was on. And but we got some
Did you
really
guys
good
talk
stories.
about-
They never talked about him hiding shrimp or Carl Gottlieb hiding shrimp in his suit coats for Larry to eat whenever they were living together in New York. You need to find our Larry Hankin episode. You will find some gems in there.
Let's check it out.
It's like where
You
he
can
like
spin it
lived in like an armored personnel carrier that was out in the water, and then he was evicted from it. That's like a whole nother story in and of itself. So yeah.
Did you guys talk about comic books with him?
No, we
does he have nerdy?
We talked
interest?
Escape from Alcatraz.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
that's-
once we started talking about Clint Eastwood, it was all I'm a fucking huge Clint Eastwood fan. And I was like, all bets are off. You fucking work with Clint Eastwood, done. We're gonna this is what we're talking about. And
They talked that, and John Hughes is basically what that interview
pretty
was.
much,
Greg.
Yeah.
And we never even touched on him being with Don Hughes whenever we talked to him. We
Yeah.
talked about John Huston, which was a really interesting story too. How John Huston like stuck up for him on one thing.
Dude, that guy has worked with so many people. It's incredible
yeah.
that more people don't know who Larry Hankin is. Because as soon as you see him, you're like, oh yeah, I know
That
exactly
guy.
who that is.
He's that
You know?
guy.
Yeah, it's that guy. You know? Did you see we had a Robert Wool on? That was really cool.
Who's he again?
Robert Wool was like an Arliss, and he
Yeah.
was, I think, wasn't he in a Superman movie, wasn't
He
he?
was in Batman.
Batman?
Batman, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he plays the reporter Knox.
Yeah.
Arliss is one of my favorite all-time shows of all time, so I was super excited.
Did you say it was your all-time show of all time?
Yes,
did.
I did. I'm
Okay.
gonna-
As long as we
Do it.
squared it,
All-time
that
show
was
of
the
all time.
important thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's that good, Matt. It's all
I'm the
time.
greatest fan of
show
all time.
You know, not to be your mother, Kenric, but don't you have to pick up your kid?
I've got to take her here in 10 minutes, but I need to go now. Guys, for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Kenric.
Sorry, I raised 5 children, so I understand these deadlines, and so
Well, it won't be her. It'll be the mother that freaks out on me. So
Yes, it will. Yeah.
what the hell, Kenric? Oh, is your podcast more important than your child? What the hell?
we've
How
had
long do you want to stay
conversation.
married to me?
Yeah, we've
You know
had
how much your credit card need to give to me now? Like all of the credit line because of this and your silly podcast, Kenric.
Oh hell no. See you guys later.
All right, good to have you, man.
Thank you.
We'll have to connect sometime. We're not that far away, 2.5 hours.
No.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
if you guys are coming down to Portland sometime, we'll do like maybe a live thing.
Yeah.
The absinthe on me, guys, at the
Weird.
Lovecraft. I'll buy you absinthe.
The absinthe is on him always anyway. Just pours it over
Like
his head.
on you, or like you're just buying it for us? So we have to drink it.
Well,
off
you'll lick it off my body. Huh?
It's
Oh,
like
perfect.
a
Great.
growth.
That's how I always like my booze, is off someone's body.
Especially Greg's because it tastes like burgers.
Yes. Oh, that's even better.
Burger sweat.
That's right. Yes. Yes, the oft maligned burger sweat that so many people don't have. Anyway, all right. So now we have your sole attention, John.
Oh, geez.
So we both have our limited our co-hosts with this particular show. So for you, was this more your idea to create this podcast, or was it more Kenric's idea after that Kevin Smith thing?
Well,
Did
see,
he like rope you into it?
he's not here, so I can take all the credit now. Right? Like, fuck him, it was all me. No,
Okay.
I started podcasting with my wife back in 2009, so I've been doing podcasting for a long time.
Oh wow. Okay.
I'm a comic creator as well, so I write and draw comics too. I've been doing music for 20 some years. So
What comics have you written and drawn?
nothing you've read. I did webcomics for 13 years. I did a webcomic called Y2CL, which basically was a dick and fart joke comic book that I just made fun of my friends in.
Okay.
I did a bunch of other ones like Inanimate, Sergeant Blinky, Free Animal Magic. All of them were just inappropriate dick joke comics where I would just make fun of everybody.
I think that's a different level of the nerd hierarchy, Greg. Whenever you're like really just hitting the dick jokes.
Oh yeah,
You
I'd
know.
hit those dicks hard.
I
But
don't know if that's nerdy. It's just humor.
It is if you're really into dick jokes.
and
I guess if you collected them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my newest book is a horror series called Ein's Anthology, which first book just came out. Book 2 is halfway done. But I did a podcast called Y2CL Radio with my wife and a friend Jackie from like 2009 forward. It started out just being like me and her talking to other webcomic people and just like shooting the shit. And then it moved forward, and then Kenric and I were just talking for a long time, and we were going to do a YouTube show, and then we kind of like, I was like, hey man, we should just do a fucking podcast. Like, let's just get a microphone. Let's start talking about this shit. Cause we'd have, as he said, we'd be at like Thanksgiving and be talking about, X-Men or Superman for 3 hours, through the whole thing. And then after Kevin Smith thing, I already had some microphone stuff. I was still doing my other podcast. And then we just, he finally bought a microphone, and then we just started recording. And then we've always been prolific. Like right now we release episodes every day, at least one.
Wow.
Wow.
We've been doing that for we've started in July 2nd of 2017, and we have 650 some episodes out now.
So every day for 4 years you've been doing a show.
Well, we've been doing every day for about the last year and a half. Before
Okay.
that, it was like 3 times a week. Like between
So that means you'll just be rolling in the dough from this.
so much dough, like so much cookie dough. It's not even funny.
That's why you have $5,000 books on your shelf.
That's why
One-
Kenric had a maid go take his daughter to the pool.
Yeah, his servants taking him out there. But no, it's fun. We've definitely bought a lot of equipment from this thing. This podcast has definitely been a money sink, and I've bought in so much equipment I don't need. But I need it. I tell my wife I need it, and she says okay. So
It's a different aspect of collecting comic books. It helps cause other people to be more interested by having that better equipment. I'm a little more of an audiophile because I have a karaoke business, and so
Nice.
I like having this sound good as well. And one of these days we're gonna let Greg finally have a microphone, but we're not sure when that's going to happen.
They won't let me until a certain point. They're keeping me from one.
what's that catalyst point is like?
Oh, him understanding what technology is.
So never.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
I'm just really
for
broke all
for
the time.
months, for months he had a tablet and he didn't know it was a tablet.
So
It was a day.
how
One
did you get on
day.
this call? Like, how did this happen? How did you join the Zoom? Because that's technology too.
I'm on my tablet right now.
Oh, okay.
Because
Using the data.
because I've got the Zoom account. That's why.
Yeah. I wouldn't know how to do that.
And Zoom is designed for like people in business who are less technologically inclined, so they had to make it kind of idiot proof.
I mean, my 7-year-old son can do it for class every day.
Right. Yeah, my wife's a school teacher, so she has kindergartners who figure out how to use the online learning. And so, Greg is at least as smart as a kindergartner.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, definitely. It's time for my nap.
It's time for all of our.
Give me some cookies.
He's got a juice box.
Juice.
Can't
I
argue
think
with that.
I think it's interesting that the fact that you guys do a podcast every day this long. It's probably why you squabble so much. You're like a married couple.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we talk every day. Before we had the podcast, we would talk on text, whatever, and we would just make jokes back and forth. And we thought, we first thought was, oh, let's take our text, put them into a Word document, format them, and make a fucking book out of it because it's hilarious. But then that turned into us making the podcast, which turns into making YouTube videos and doing more video stuff and having fun with it. So
that's kind of the nature of how this got started too. Is it started with Greg and I having long conversations that I didn't really want to have, but occasionally things would be very, very funny. I'm like, well, man, this be lost to posterity, which shows how narcissistic I am. The fact that I expect our words need to be around for future generations. And so we were talking about doing like a YouTube show for a while, and then I found out, and then COVID happened. And I found out how easy it was to create a podcast. Like you can do it in 5 minutes, basically. And I'm like, well, Greg could do that. So that's kind of where it got started for us. And we did 2 episodes, and then we brought in our another friend for the 3rd episode. He's in Florida, and he decided to keep coming back. So we're having our anniversary in June. So this is like a COVID-born podcast.
Oh, nice.
And it's probably got legs too, because we consistently still argue with each other on the phone. So it's probably stuck around.
You can always argue, man. You can always argue.
Yeah, we've been getting really interesting guests. Well, like, I mean, I appreciate the fact you guys have Thomas Jane. I don't think Greg knows that Thomas Jane has his own like comic book company.
Oh yeah, Thomas Jane's a huge comic nerd.
Yeah, and
what's his comic book company?
You should watch their Thomas Jane episode, Greg, because he gets all into that.
Wow.
Yeah, he has a new book coming out called Lycan, which looks really cool, and they're working on it right now. And I think it's called Renegade. His production company is what he's doing it through.
Or like Raw Entertainment or something like that.
It's something with an R. I know that.
When I heard you guys say Lycan, though, I was actually thinking of like plankton type of lichen, and then I saw the spelling of it somewhere else, and I went, "Oh no, it's werewolves." Got it.
Oh, I thought it was lichen too. Yeah.
I was thinking it had to do with what feeds whales.
And then he can star in the movie when they make a movie out of lichen.
Maybe if they eat that, then that's how they turn into a werewolf.
Right. Perfect.
I don't know. Anyway,
that's why they're called lycanthropes.
Lycanthropes. Yep.
No, that's what it's called, the lichen, Greg, because it comes from lycanthropes.
Yeah.
Not the other way around.
Oh, they excrete it. Werewolves excrete lichen.
They're known for their mossy exterior.
Yes. John, I wanted to ask you, when you were growing up, what were your favorite comics? What were you really into?
So I grew up reading Superman, Batman, Wolverine. So I got into comics. Well, at first I was reading Archie, like when I was really little. My dad bought me Archie books, he gave me.
I think I started with Archie as well. And I always see everybody who wears red and black as versions of Jughead.
Nice, yeah. He wouldn't buy me like the new Archie books. He would just like give me like the ones from the 60s and 70s that he already had. So I would just, because he would buy the comics for himself, and I would just get to read the stuff that he already had. Because at one point my dad had an 8x10 bedroom or office room just full of comic books he'd had. And he was like what I consider like the ultimate collector of the 80s, 70s, and 80s, because at one point he had Superman 1 through 426. He had X-Men 1 through 50. He had pretty much, if it was Marvel, he had 1 through 50 of it.
Yeah.
And because he was going to open up a comic book store in the 80s, so he would go to shows in the 70s and then just buy out everything he could because it was cheap then. So he had a lot of comics. He had the first Justice League. He had he didn't have an Action 1, but he had an Action 3 and 4. He had early Batmans. He had a Superman 1 that would be worth a lot of money today if I still had it. But so he had all these comic books, and we'd go in there and he'd read them to me. I learned how to read from comic books. And then I got really into comic books when the X-Men cartoon came out. And then and also when the Death of Superman series happened. That was the prime for me to get into comics. Because my
brother started really collecting comics when Death of Superman came out, but he was doing it more for like investment purposes. So I know he bought like 50 copies of the Death of Superman one. Yeah,
lot.
and
Did
now
you ever
they're
see
all
the
worth a
X-Men?
quarter.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the X-Men cartoon where Wolverine found God? I'm not making this up. Because Nightcrawler is religious in the comics. Wolverine's a total not. And there was this episode where they were bickering about, you should believe in God. He's like, that's bullshit. And at the end of the episode, he goes into a church and kneels down. And I think he even prays to Bub. He says, Bub, hey, Bub, I'm sorry about what I did. That's how he refers to God.
I think Bub is your god, Greg.
I wouldn't
Bubba-
expect it to
Bubba
be
Hotep.
different.
I remember the one comic book where I was just like, oh, they've gone totally over the top, where Wolverine gets thrown into the sun and still comes back to life because of his mutant
factor.
abilities. And I went, I just can't
That's
buy
taking it too far.
I can't really buy that you've been turned into gas and you can still come back to life.
Yeah, because every cell would be obliterated. He doesn't even have one cell to regenerate from.
Unless he becomes Starman.
That's a DC character, not a Marvel character. So
Yeah, duh.
He actually becomes the sun. You know, he lives one with the sun. Then he's able to destroy all of his enemies easily by just like one sun flare at a time.
That would be the boringest comic ever. This week's threat, Galactus.
Dead.
He's dead.
Wait, if Galactus could eat planets, you don't think he could eat stars too?
I don't know.
See, Galactus doesn't like spicy things. It's too hot.
Yeah, stars, they're spicy.
What gives him agita?
It's on lots of Mexican diets.
Right. He's on too much flaming ass. He doesn't want that.
I always like the idea. I have the Marvel Universe poster from the 80s with every single character. Do you remember that? Did you ever see it? I still have mine. And I would always have friends come over and they'd be like, who's that? Who's that? And they'd always think Ego the Living Planet was fascinating because he's a planet who's sentient. He's got a face, kind of. And I always thought as a kid, I was like, wait, Galactus likes to eat worlds. What if he met Ego? And then I found out that happened in a Thor comic in the 60s.
You know, Ego was one of Jack Kirby's favorite creations.
Really?
Well, so now I'm on the edge of my sheet. Both of them actually. When I'm not doing this, I'm in the KKK, so I'm on the edge of my sheet. Anyway, so what happened with Ego and Galactus, Greg? You can't just leave that cliffhanger there.
I think Thor stopped.
This is spoiler country, Greg. So spoiler.
To be honest, I never read the comic. I just read that there was a 3-issue arc in Thor where they met and Galactus wanted to eat Ego. And Ego was like, no.
Don't eat me.
Hold on, bro. Hold on.
Don't eat me.
No. Don't eat me, bro.
Do you know the story, John?
I know they met. I've never actually read it though. I was never a Thor fan growing up.
Me neither.
I read a lot of Marvel. So when I was about 13 or 14, a friend of my dad's work was getting rid of his comic collection and asked my dad, hey, did your son read comics? He was like, yeah. So he gave me all of his comic books, which was pretty much everything Marvel printed from 1968 to 1978.
Wow.
It was like a 10-year run of I'm not kidding. Everything Marvel, with the exception of Spider-Man and a good chunk of X-Men was in there. But like all the Marvel premieres, all the Marvel presents, all the Thors, Captain America's, all that Fantastic Four, that was all there. And so I just started reading. That's how I read a lot of Marvel, was all these old 70s books that this guy gave me. But I read a couple of the Thors. I didn't like them, so I just never finished reading them. Same thing with Captain America. I didn't care for Captain America either back then.
What was your opinion of Wonder Man?
I thought he was lame.
Yeah. Oh my God, in the 70s, he wore that Merle Perkins safari jacket. That was his costume. He looks so dumb.
I never really understood that particular character. I'm like, he's supposed to be like a takeoff of a Wonder Woman? Like, where's his lasso?
That was at a time when Marvel and DC were battling for copyrights on names. That was when Marvel took the Captain Marvel name from DC, because Fawcett lost the copyright, and then they copyrighted real quick in the 60s, and then DC bought Captain Marvel and had to call him Shazam, not Captain Marvel. And then so they were fighting back and forth to get copyright on names. So Marvel was like taking anything like, oh, they have Wonder Woman, we'll make a Wonder Man, try and fuck back and forth.
That's why Marvel did Spider-Woman. They just made this new comic. Nobody gave a shit about her, but they just wanted to secure that name. So
was that the purpose of She-Hulk too?
She-Hulk,
yeah, exactly.
It was different. She-Hulk made She-Hulk because She-Hulk was rushed to production because Marvel wanted to get her printed in the comic books before the TV show made a female Hulk, because the TV show was talking about bringing in a female Hulk, and the publishing house knew that if they did it on the TV show first, they would lose out on the money of it being first in the comic books, and the TV writers would have the creation credit, not the comics.
I got to say, I'm actually really looking forward to the She-Hulk show that's going to be coming out because of the actress that's going to be playing her. I am a really big fan of, which is Tatiana Maslany from Orphan Black. And I don't know if you've seen that show, Orphan Black, Greg, but she plays like 6 different characters in that show.
I saw the first episode. It was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, you should watch the whole thing. But she plays like 6 different characters really, really well, especially when she's like in the scene with herself as 4 different characters playing off of herself. And the fact that she's going to be doing She-Hulk should be, I think, a real coup for them, as long as the story is okay. But there you go. There's my geekiness for the day.
I'll take it.
Here's another question about the MCU. Why the hell doesn't Hulk get another movie?
Why don't you just ask the questions instead of saying that you're prefacing your question with a statement? Just ask your freaking question, Greg.
Why don't you stop giving me shit for prefacing my questions with a question?
Because
just deal with it.
Because it's better if you just ask the question.
Okay, so I was going to say, it's weird that everyone seems to love the Hulk and the Avengers.
You were going to say it, but you're not actually saying it?
They love and Thor Ragnarok, and yet they won't give him another movie. Seems like people would watch it.
They won't give who another movie?
The Hulk.
Hulk.
Why do you think they won't give him another movie?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
It's a movie, right?
He has a theory.
Paramount owns the Hulk in the movies, and the Hulk is on rent from Paramount for the MCU, right?
Oh,
yeah, Paramount owns the Hulk, which is why the Incredible Hulk is a Paramount picture. It's in the MCU, but it's not a Disney Marvel picture. It's actually before Disney bought Marvel. But Hulk is on loan. So if they were to make a solo Hulk film, it would have to be in like Spider-Man is, where it's made by both Sony and Marvel or Disney. It's made by both, and my assumption is they don't think Hulk is a big enough draw to make them enough money for them both to get enough for the percentage wise.
Is it because like the other Hulk movies have basically tanked?
And that's probably part of the why too, because solo Hulk movies have not. I mean, I like the Incredible Hulk. I did not like the Ang Lee Hulk movie, like at all.
That was the one with Eric Bana.
Yeah, I liked Eric Bana. I liked Jennifer Connelly, but I thought the movie was garbage.
Yeah,
I like the Hulk dogs, especially the poodle.
I mean, they were cool, but no.
Hulk dogs. That's what they should call actual hot dogs instead of hot
Hulk
dogs.
Hulk dogs. If it's really big and green.
But they never just called a Hulk dong, not a Hulk dog at that point.
Oh, that would just be a different show entirely.
That would be huge.
It would be.
I think actually that may have been made already.
It probably has.
Has the Hulk ever had sex in a comic? Has he ever been attracted to someone?
Well, he has. There's the wedding issue, so I'm sure he had sex with Betty Ross.
Yeah, but when he was Bruce Banner, but the Hulk, I don't even think he has erotic thoughts.
I mean,
I think you don't want him to have erotic thoughts because imagine what he would be going after.
What if he likes me?
Talk about rage
gay.
If he was gay, then he and Wendigo could have a thing.
They did.
Or the Abomination.
Well, Hulk's son is gay in the comics.
He has a son? I didn't even know he had a son.
In the New Avengers, yeah.
Is he called
Hunk? He was first called Hulkling.
Oh, yeah, it's Hulkling. Oh. But yeah, he's with Wiccan. Him and Wiccan are together.
Wiccan. I don't know. I don't even know these characters anymore.
Wiccan is the Scarlet Witch and Vision's one of the Scarlet Witch and Vision's kids.
And that's a different question altogether, which is how does that happen? One is an android.
Well, sorcery.
Scarlet Witch can bend reality, and
apparently she bends semen.
She does. It bends it well, apparently.
That's actually her slogan, Scarlet Witch, the semen bender.
Right. Coming soon, the next Avatar movie.
Well, I want to say thank you very much, John Horsley, and a fond farewell to Kenric Regan, who left us about 20 minutes ago. This has been quite enlightening, discussing the nerd hierarchy as well as spoiler country. Give us a really good, strong plug for your entire multiverse, John.
Oh, Jesus. Quick on the spot. Okay, so...
I can't do it to Greg. He doesn't know as much as you.
I don't know anything. Spoiler Country, we are a podcast that talks about nerdy shit. We also talk to people all across the pop culture spectrum, from writers, directors, producers, anything that isn't comics or movies or TV, even composers and musicians. You can find us on any podcatcher out there, Google Play, Apple iTunes, Spotify, or at spoilerverse.com. If you go to spoilerverse.com, you'll find articles and reviews and previews of comics and movies, as well as a bunch of other podcasts over the whole spectrum of the nerd worlds, from horror movies to comics to deep dives into the meaning behind comics as well.
And what are your top 3 episodes people need to listen to if they go to spoilerverse.com?
So number one, I highly suggest you go and listen to our Stephen Frank interview, the very first one from like 2017. That man, he's the creator. He was the animation director on the Iron Giant. He wrote a book called Silver. And he tells some wonderful stories about his grandfather in World War II that'll blow your mind. That's my number one. Number two would be our interview with Ben Templesmith is phenomenal. It's one of my favorites. And then number three would be we did an episode on the Comics Code Authority that I will selfishly plug myself because I did all the research on that one and I'm very happy with it. And I think the end result of it was very good.
Outstanding. All right. Well, thank you again. And this has been the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker.
You've left the offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. It's over. It's over. It's time for you to go home. It's over. It's over. Go away now.